What's good, everyone? It's your boy Natsu with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMVSportsZone. And we got another edition of Watch the Football Weekly this week. And it's none other than Damien Bartonek, if I'm pronouncing that last name correctly.
Hey, that's good. That's money. We can do it.
Damien, before we even get started with all the Watch the Football team talk, which, we got a lot to talk about. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the channel to the people out there who might not already know who you are.
So I'm Damien Bartonek. I cover the Washington football team for Riggos Rag. I have my own podcast called Dame Dropback, where I primarily talk about the football team, but I enjoy talking about any and all sports, any and all topics. But it's been pretty dope. I've interviewed guys like Deron Payne and Mark Bullock, and I'm just, trying to be an all-time great broadcaster. So just grinding, stuck in the grind. You know how it goes.
Yeah. And for people out there who don't know, this guy is my age. He's a senior at college, and he's already verified on Twitter. That tells you all you need to know about the kind of work that he's putting out there. So, Damien, I appreciate you. It's an honor to have you on the channel. And with that being said, let's get started into the Washington football talk because we got a lot to talk about once again. So, first and foremost, a very short recap of preseason game number 2. Who stood out the most to you and the least to you as well?
I would say who stood out the most to me off the top of my head was – I want to say Jaret Patterson, but I don't want to that's an easy one. You know what I mean? So I'd probably say Dyami Brown. I was really excited for that back shoulder catch he had from Ryan Fitzpatrick. I was really excited to kind of see him play out there. I believe he had a pretty crucial drop out there as well, but all in all, from your rookie wideout, I think there's a lot to like when it comes to him. And this wide receiver rotation for Washington looks pretty good, man. I mean, I know they just released Steven Sims and, Kelvin Harmon, but they're still loaded at the position, I feel. And Dyami Brown was one, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of easy to go with Jaret Patterson. I will say this, though. Last week, if you saw the thumbnail of the Washington Football Weekly stream, basically predicted the Jaret Patterson show, and we saw that in full effect last week. He was running roughshod all over the field, and definitely, I think we could agree that he's locked down a roster spot at this point. But outside of Jaret Patterson, I liked what we saw out of Benjamin St-Juste. He held his own coverage with guys like William Jackson III and Kendall Fuller being out of the game. Also, Torrey McTyer as well, who kind of came out of nowhere during the offseason and has had a very good camp. A training camp, and then ultimately that flowed into the preseason. And I mean, maybe he locked down a roster spot as well, especially with Greg Stroman, I believe, being cut earlier in the offseason. But and I think the least, I mean, I've been roasting this guy, it seems like every single week on this channel, but Peyton Barber, it's not necessarily what he did on the field, right? He didn't have like a terrible play or anything, but like there's a reason why he didn't get that many snaps last week, and I think it's because the roster or the team is prefers Jaret Patterson and likes what they're seeing out of Patterson more than Barber. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, if you think Barber could still make the roster even with his lack of production thus far.
Yeah, so with Peyton Barber, it's like you said, it's not like a bad play. It's not that what he does, rather what he can't do. And it's, I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, but it's kind of like, it's stupid, but it's like you need 3 yards, he'll get you 4. You need 10 yards, he'll get you 3. Like it's kind of what it is. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily like, he's a bad player by any means. It's just kind of more so he's limited in what he can give you. He doesn't have that extra level. The vision is very limited. It's very between the tackles, and that's about it. So, I mean, I understand 100% why he's not getting PT over guys like Jaret Patterson. Just because Patterson gives you everything, a little bit of everything. He does need to work on the pass blocking stuff a little bit. But, I mean, for an undrafted free agent running back, you cannot be upset at that whatsoever.
Yeah, and a lot of people doubted his catching ability. I mean, he's been arguably the best rookie running back when it comes to catching the ball in the preseason thus far. So, I mean, obviously he's not, a first string or anything, or else he wouldn't get as many snaps. But, I mean, he's been doing a lot of great work with the snaps that he's getting. I see here, Tim, with how do you not know about Torrey McTyer? I know there's some sarcasm there, but yeah, man, he's popped. I mean, do you have thoughts on him and what he's shown you thus far? Do you think he can make the roster?
Yeah, so Torrey McTyer is interesting because so I listened to the Washington Football Talk podcast with JP and Peter Haley and stuff like that. And I think it was Pete that said, like, hey, I can see McTyer making this team. And it's interesting because the guys he said that were making the team, I would like, for example, I know I'm probably gonna get roasted for this, but I still think Apke still is really limited, even as a special teamer.
Yeah.
And he had Apke making the roster. I would much rather keep a guy like McTire because he's played well. I mean, you can't be upset at what he's given you, and especially like at corner, you can never have a lot of instinctive corners like that. So I do think he can make the roster 100%. I think I have to really kind of sit down a little bit and think about what DBs they're going to keep. But I can definitely see McTire making the roster. I still think, even though that one ball against New England where he got beat, but the receiver, quote unquote, dropped it, it was still a good play on the ball. You know what I mean? So while he, of course, he's not going to be, 2016 Josh Norman. He's going to give you some solid production. That's for sure.
For sure. Tim here mentioning Patterson's production thus far, 7 targets, 7 catches. I mean, he's catching everything that comes his way. I believe it was the first week he had that great sideline catch that was underthrown against the Patriots. So, I mean, he's been balling out. Yeah. Like we said, I think we agree. I think he's locked down a roster spot up until now.
Yeah, and I went on my man Jamal's podcast right after that Patriots game, and I mean, I know I'm not going to come here and act like I'm a football savant. I know everything about the game, but that catch coming back to the ball, working back to the ball in that Patriots game was huge. That is so difficult to do. And he made that look easy because I wasn't even a good ball anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he made a play, and that's all you can do in preseason, especially from an undrafted free agent. You just got to make a play, and he's done plenty of that. So I think he would need a monumental fumble of the football, both literally and hypothetically, metaphorically, that to not make this roster. So yeah, I think Jaret Patterson's a lock, man.
Yeah, and we'll get to this a little bit later in this stream. I'm gonna roast that list. We'll get to that later. But with this, even though it's not necessarily lined up with what we were just talking about, I don't know if you got a chance to see the Hard Knocks episode. What is it now? 2, 3? Yeah, 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, that drone video was fire. That was insane. What are your thoughts on like the Hard Knocks episode? And obviously the Dallas Cowboys are the team that's being showcased on Hard Knocks, and feels like every second I have to remind myself that. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the Hard Knocks episode, and also like the drone video that you saw, and also the practice facility? We can say whatever we want about the Cowboys, but that's state of the art for sure.
No, yeah, they have the best facilities and stadium in the league. I've been to the stadium back in 2019 when it was the last game of the season where Washington got blown out. I don't even remember the score, but it was a massive defeat.
Yeah.
But no, they have the best. I believe the best stadium, the best practice facilities. That you saw that video. It was so interesting how big it is, how detailed it is, how nice it is. And it is over a decade old, if I'm not mistaken. So It doesn't even look that. Like, for example, Washington's FedEx Field was what? When did they go there? Like 1999 or something like that? It was in the 90s, right? So they've been there for a little over 20 years, and that place looks like a dump. Like, you look at where Dallas is playing at, and all their equipment, all their facilities. It's over a decade old, and it looks brand new. It looks like they just made it. It was just opened. So, yeah, that video was amazing. We actually talked about it today in class, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it was really cool to see, just every aspect of that building, how much, and you always think like, man, how much did that cost? You know what I mean? Like, but I even thought that indoor practice facility, the Ford Center, where they practice indoors with the seats, that was awesome, man. I mean, Jerry Jones, you could say a lot about him, but the man does it right. When it comes to spending money, he knows how to spend it, and spend it in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're the most valuable franchise, not just in the NFL, not just in North American sports, I believe in all of the sports around the world. So, I mean, it tells you all you need to know. But, moving on a little bit into some more Washington football team talk. So we got to Jaret Patterson. We talked about him. We talked about Peyton Barber a bit, Benjamin St-Juste. We didn't talk about this guy he's back, maybe, ? Landon Collins.
Yeah.
Potentially back to elite level status at safety. What are your thoughts on Landon Collins' performance thus far in the preseason? And do you think he's potentially back?
Landon Collins is a guy that I've talked about so much, and it's been really, really hard to not be negative when you discuss him, up to this point in his Washington career. I think shout out to Mark Bullock. You wrote an excellent piece basically saying that if Washington can play more cover 4, that quarters coverage, kind of keep everything in front of him, Landon can be a good player. And we saw that in New York. That's when he made the Pro Bowl. back, I believe it was the Pro Bowl or the All Pro team, was playing a lot of that heavy cover 4 and, keeping everything in front of him. And it worked for him. I mean, that can work in Washington. They definitely have the personnel to do that.
Yeah.
But the thing is my whole deal is this. I don't know right now from what we've seen in the last 2 seasons if he's good enough as a run defender to play as close to the line of scrimmage as some people are thinking, are believing. In coverage, we know what that is. But I think if you kind of playing that heavy cover 4, that quarters coverage, that could be best for him. But I mean, I don't want Landon to be on the field if that means Cam Curl isn't on the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you need to put your best 11 out there. Even if that means, if Washington has to start, 5 linemen or something like that, I would do that because it's all about putting the best talent on the field. And hey, if Landon ends up shining and he actually is better in coverage and, better in the run, he's just overall a better player, and why not play him? Him and Cam Crow together would be nice anyway. So,
yeah. And with Landon Collins, a lot of people forget this, but outside of his 2016 season, which everybody loves to refer to, was a Pro Bowler. I mean, this might be a hot take, might not. He's been the John Bostic of safeties when it comes to coverage abilities. And on the Warpath, that's for you if you're watching. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think, for me personally, pump the brakes on Landon Collins and people thinking that he's going to be a Pro Bowler, or not even a Pro Bowler, but just going to be back to his elite status as safety. I think we need to see some game action, some regular season game action where teams are actually scheming up offenses and not just, basically scheming up vanilla plays every now and then. Yep. So I think we still need to see more out of him, but I hope Landon Collins could be back, right? Like that would be super dynamic for our defense. It's already amazing as is, but Landon Collins being added would be insane. Like back to his level.
I mean, you're paying the guy $84 million. Like,
cool, yeah.
We hope. Let's hope he can.
Yeah, it's put up or shut up time for Landon.
Yeah. This is definitely because there's actually an out after this season in his contract, I believe, with like minimal dead cap. I believe this season is when it begins. So it's put up or shut up time, and hopefully he does play well.
Yeah, for sure. On the Worth Path, we'll get to this guy's Brian and Sheriff take a little bit later in the stream. It's actually insane, but yeah.
But at first I thought he meant I was being too loud. I was like, no, I gotta turn the ball. I gotta turn it down.
No. Tone here with the Hemingway question. Thoughts on Hemingway being cut and also the tight end group right now? How do you think it will play out for the 53-man roster?
Cutting Hemingway was good because I'm not gonna lie. So. I mean, I hate to rag on the guy and really talk down on these athletes because they're great, right?
Yeah.
But he ran probably one of the worst corner routes I've ever seen in that Patriots game. He got as much separation as I would out there on the field. It was really bad, and the blocking wasn't good either. I really don't feel any sort of way. I'm kind of like shrugging my shoulders like I expected it. The tight end room, though, I believe with guys like Bates and Logan Thomas, I really like what Sam Reyes has shown in that one game that he did play. As a blocker, it was really impressive because he was able to get to that second level and make these tough blocks, and that's what's interesting from a young player like that. I played lineman my whole life when I did play football, so I can kind of speak to this a little bit. Blocking's really tough. It's a lot of effort, and it's quick mental notes. You have to go and go and go. You have to make a read and go, and he was able to do that. So I would like to see Sam Reyes maybe. I mean, if they keep 3 or 4 times, I would like to. Oh yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It was sort of inevitable, especially I think it was week 1 of the preseason where he was even set up for a nice block and he just got ran over by the Patriots defensive end. And at that moment, I realized Hemingway was definitely going to be cut sooner rather than later. Another guy who I thought was going to be cut, and he was this week, was Steven Sims. What are your thoughts on that news? And also, my gosh, it was like before he could even get a ham sandwich or something, like he got picked up by the Buffalo Bills. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that fit there in Buffalo?
No, I don't in Buffalo, just because, I mean, not to bring up COVID, but considering their slot receiver, there's going to be a lot of there. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a COVID situation involving their slot wideout, right? They sign one, they pick one up immediately who has plenty of game reps, who has seen targets before. So it makes sense, especially in Buffalo. They like to do a lot of intermediate passing game stuff. They can even do some quick stuff with Steven Sims. So that's good for them. In Washington's case, it was good for them as well. Steven Sims, honestly, in that second season, it seemed like he kind of got in his own way. He couldn't really put a solid stretch, throughout that entire year. It's just been really, really a roller coaster ride for him. After that first year, I thought maybe Washington could have something, but time tells all, and we kind of saw what was up with that. So
Yeah.
now with Washington, I think it was fine, and for the Bills, good on them.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just the fan base that thought he could be something. I think it was Bleacher Report, or there was some
Oh
publication
yeah,
out there that posted like a cut of his like sick routes towards the end
yeah,
of the 2019 season, and everybody, I mean, that got like over 2,000 like likes and stuff, which
yep,
is not usually common for teams at that point posting like Redskins content when we're 3-13 and stuff. But
yeah,
no, a lot of people were hyping him up. I thought he could be decent, maybe not a star, but decent. Obviously, was neither of those things here in DC. Although he
yeah,
did have a good end of last season once he actually had some good quarterback play. But I think by that point it was too late. And yeah, he's on the Buffalo Bills now. Definitely agree with you. I didn't even think about that point, like Cole
yeah.
Beasley being their slot receiver, and like why they would have the thought of picking up Steven Sims so quickly. But
Yeah.
that's a
Yep.
great point. And it's funny that you say, because like earlier today, we were talking about Cole Beasley and how he can't help himself. We talked about Dwayne Haskins before this, not helping
Yeah.
himself, right, whatsoever when it comes to being in the media, right, in a positive light. And Cole Beasley, I mean, it's pretty much him, but with Twitter, right? Always
Yeah.
trending. I feel like every
Yeah.
single day I see him trending.
Oh goodness. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely frustrating to see.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But moving on from that, and if you guys want my take on Cole Beasley and that, make sure to check out the video. I mean, it's still relevant. It was, I think,
Yeah.
posted on this channel about a month and a half ago, but still relevant. Make sure to check that out. But outside of Steven Sims, outside of Tamarick Hemingway, outside of the cuts that we had this week, I don't know, man. I'm more worried now about our two biggest signings in the offseason, Curtis Samuel and William Jackson III, missing long periods of time. I know Curtis Samuel, it was a combination of COVID and the hamstring injury that he's had dating back to OTAs in June.
Yep.
Are you worried about those absences thus far? And do you think their time away, time off the field will be a big issue as we start the season?
For Curtis Samuel, I'll start with him. I was kind of skeptical about the entire pursuit of him this offseason, passing up shots like Ben Simmons. I was actually skeptical of him throughout this entire process, just because I felt like he was much better in the slot than out wide. I know Washington kind of wants to play him, and they might play him like that. I think the signing of Adam Humphries kind of proves that they kind of want him to be a little bit more outside than inside. But I am a little worried about that, especially with a player like him. The hamstring injuries, that's like one of the worst injuries for positions that he plays. I mean, I remember back in the day, Santana Moss, there was a couple of seasons where the hamstring just couldn't get out of the way, man. It was always an issue. So I believe with William Jackson, isn't that the same injury? He's dealing with the hamstring as well, isn't he?
So. Yeah.
And like I said, and I kind of worry with him as well, being, kind of a heavy man corner. I mean, speed kills, you know what I mean? And your technique can only get you so far, you know what I mean? So I think there's definitely cause for concern, but hopefully they can get some treatment on it. They can kind of come into the season feeling better, because normally I believe Shannon Sharp credited this one. If you limp into the season, you limp out. So hopefully they can turn it around.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. For a guy who's known as a speedster, a groin injury or a hamstring injury, that is very worrisome. But from what I've heard, they've started to ramp things up for both Samuel and William Jackson III. Maybe for Samuel, a lot of that had to do with COVID and how he's still dealing with the repercussions of it all, of contracting the virus and likely being unvaccinated, because if he was out for that long period of time, that was probably one of the reasons why. But hopefully they can get back to the field sooner rather than later. And obviously we won't see them pretty much in the preseason, but I think come week one, I think they should be healthy, especially because this year we have, I believe, 2.5 weeks between the last preseason game and the regular season week number 1, which will give them ample time to get ready. But moving on from that topic, what are your thoughts on the Fitzy-Logan Thomas connection that has been forming over the last couple of weeks and really throughout the offseason, and just how big of a season do you think Logan will have this season? Because I think he's going to be spectacular.
Oh, yeah. No, he's going to see a lot of targets. Fitzpatrick loves his tight ends, and he's played with a lot of really good ones. Credit again, Washington Football Talk podcast. I remember listening to them, and they were kind of listing the tight ends he's played with, and it was like OJ Howard, Cameron Brate, Mike Gesicki,
yeah.
like, and they're really highly talented guys. And Logan Thomas is he may not be as athletic as an OJ Howard or as good as that possession target as a Gesicki, but he's really good as well. So I think Logan Thomas could have a big year. He could see a lot of targets, maybe 800 receiving yards, 900 receiving yards, something like that. I mean, I know that's a lot. It's a high end number, but he's definitely going to see the targets. Yeah, he's going to see a lot of targets. I think that's for sure. And if Washington likes to do that intermediate passing game stuff, Logan can do some damage. I mean, we've seen it already. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen beautiful back shoulder balls like against the Patriots. That was one of the better throws we've seen in Washington in a couple seasons now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Logan Thomas definitely, there's a path for him to have a really good year. Put up some good numbers and make some people's fantasy teams happy.
Yeah, I think that throw and the Taylor Heineke throw in the postseason last year, I think it was to Steven Sims in the back of the end zone. I like that a lot as well. But I agree with you. That was a great throw. And with regards to Logan Thomas, I agree with you. About 800 receiving yards, maybe bumping up his total touchdowns to 8 this year. I think that's the sort of seat that we're going to see out of him. I mean, Mike Gesicki last year had, I believe, almost 700 receiving yards and about 7 receiving touchdowns. And I think he honestly isn't as good as Logan Thomas right now. So I think he's just going to solidify his place as a top 6, 7 tight end in this league behind guys like, of course, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller. Potentially Kyle Pitts could find himself in the top 5 as soon as this year. Mark Andrews as well, who I think is going to have a bounce back season. And behind those guys, even Tyler Hawkinson out there in Detroit, who's the only pass catcher that they have left out there for Jared Goff. Poor Jared Goff. But I think he's going to have a very good season this year. I want to get to Bigga TV's comment right here. I feel like we still don't have a number 2 receiver. Do you agree with that? Curtis Samuel not being that number 2. I know a lot of people were talking about in the offseason of potentially getting a Corey Davis, who would be, like, of course, a legit number 2. But I think Curtis Samuel fits into that slot.
No, I definitely do. I definitely think whether it's Curtis Samuel or, honestly, I think Dame Brown has the opportunity to be that as well. I mean, you look at, opposing number 2s, just I know one off the top of my head that kind of plays in a similar role. I know in college, all that Dame seemed to do that everyone likes to mention is just, hey, go route, go route, go route. You know what I mean? And back in Houston when they had DeAndre Hopkins, it was DeAndre and Will Fuller. You know what I mean? DeAndre can catch at all 3 levels. Terry McLaurin can catch at all 3 levels. You have a go route and a guy like a Dame Brown, and there you go. You know what I mean? So I definitely think Dame has the potential to do that. I really liked him coming out. I had him as my wide receiver 7, I believe. And I thought he was going to be a steal for whoever drafted him. Luckily, it was Washington. Yeah. But I honestly say to that I would let you know, like, hey, don't sleep on Dame. If it's not this season, it might be next year. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of talent with him. And in Curtis Samuel's case as well, he may not be the wide receiver 2 like a Corey Davis that you're thinking of. But I will say this: his ability to be versatile and play throughout the offense, no matter where he's lined up at or placed at, he can still make an impact and have a wide receiver 2-esque kind of year with that kind of statistical production. So I wouldn't sleep on Samuel or Dame.
Okay.
I like Dame Brown a lot, bro.
I do too. I
loved him coming out, bro. Oh my! I
think the fact that we have Dame Brown and Benjamin St-Juste, 2 studs out of the 3rd round once again, man. I don't know. 3rd round, there's something with the 3rd round there. Like when it comes to Washington doing really well. But who do you think is gonna have the better season? Speaking of the round picks, Benjamin St-Juste or Dame Brown?
I think St-Juste probably will, because I think St-Juste is gonna start. So he's gonna see a lot. He's gonna see a lot of PT. I think Dame is gonna have a good year, but he's not gonna see the target share that'll kind of like I'm expecting honestly from Dame this year probably anywhere from 400 to 580 in terms of pass yards. So it may not be like, oh my God, I can't, he went for 1,000 or this, that, and the third. But I think he's still gonna have a really good year. You're gonna have to watch the tape to know that he had a good year. But I would say he's gonna have a good year.
Just like people had to watch the tape, Terry McLaurin's rookie year, right? All the outsiders who were like, "Oh, he didn't even get 1,000 yards. How could he be better than DK Metcalf and AJ Brown?" Like, I mean, you got to watch the tape. But I will say this.
Started on that.
Yeah. With tight end, and again, we'll get to the Terry talk a little bit later.
Yeah.
Tone, tight end group. He believes it's going to be Logan, Ricky Seals-Jones, and Sammis Reyes as the 3. I personally think it's going to be Logan Thomas, John Bates, and Samus Reyes would be that third guy if he gets healthy sooner rather than later. But do you have thoughts on that?
I agree 100%. Like I mentioned too, the blocking is what interests me, and Ron Rivera seems like a guy who likes a good blocking tight end. So I would definitely go with Samus Reyes. I think the receiving stuff. There's going to be a major feeling out process, especially when the play breaks down and he has to move and kind of create separation on his own. There might be a little bit of a learning curve for him, but what you've seen as a blocker is definitely encouraging going forward. So yeah, Samus Reyes, I would love to see him on the team.
I agree. Some more Diami Ben St. Just love out here in the comment section. I don't know about Forrest being a wasted pick yet. I mean, we haven't even seen him on the FedEx Field turf, right? The new FedEx Field turf in the regular season. So I think we got to hold off on that. But no, I agree with you. I think Benjamin St. Just is going to have a better season this year because he's going to be a starter early on. And because we've seen, I feel like heard more positive things out of him in camp and the preseason. Diami Brown, a lot of people forget, but he did have a dropping problem in college. I know we all love his route running and we all love the potential that he has, but I think that might slow him down a little bit, at least during his rookie season when he's just getting his feet under him and really getting things going early on here in DC. But some other people in the chat coming a little bit later. Roger Smith, Awesomeness Sports. Shout out to you guys for joining. Hawk as well.
Is that about Samus Reyes?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't think so either, because I'm putting myself in his mind frame. If I'm very new to the sport, I would do anything I could to make a roster. So whether that means blocking or that means playing on special teams, I hate to bring him up again, but Shannon Sharp was a prime example of this. He was a 7th round pick and said, hey, I knew coming into it I was going to have a tough time making the roster, so I had to play on special teams. I think a guy like Samus Reyes, if he's in that headspace where he wants to make the team, he wants to play in the NFL, he has to understand that, hey, you're not going to see all these targets in the passing game. You're going to make your money as a blocker. So that's kind of my opinion, but I mean, I could understand what you mean. I mean, from my perspective, if I was a tight end, I'd be like, man, I want to catch some touchdowns. I want to dance in the end zone. You know what I mean? But it's just,
Yeah, I appreciate it, Hawk, with the comment right here. But I wanted to get to someone else's comment here in the chat if I can get back to it. I mean, you're preaching to the choir, Roger Smith. I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I guess we could talk a little bit more here. I actually agree. I think Patterson's our best pure running back right now. I know Antonio Gibson obviously has a higher ceiling. All these CMC comparisons, I think his usage could be a CMC, but I mean, there's only one CMC out there. But I think he could be a legit dual threat. But in terms of like finding the holes, bouncing out like when it's appropriate, shiftiness, I think Patterson, I think he's number one right now. I know it's crazy to say undrafted rookie out of Buffalo, but I mean, bro, like I've loved what I've seen out of him thus far in preseason.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's the best as in terms of just a pure runner. Yeah, he's the best one. JD's a really good receiver. He's probably an off tackle run, and that's probably it. Antonio Gibson still needs a little bit more polish, especially running between the tackles and stuff like that. But Patterson, I think I would agree. He's the best pure running back. And like you mentioned, I agree with you that Gibson does have the higher ceiling, but as of right now, as a pure runner, I'm telling you, I'm gonna hand you the ball off, and you're gonna make it happen. Yeah, I think Patterson's the best one.
Yeah, and I really don't understand the Darren Sproles comparisons. I see more Maurice Jones-Drew out of Patterson. If I'm just gonna like put out a comparison out there, and I think he could be someone like that. Maybe not to Drew's level, obviously, because he was a great running back. But I see that out of him.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome comparison. I think I've heard that, and I've heard like Deion Lewis.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love those comps. So yeah, that's spot on, brother. Spot on.
Yeah, for sure. Ray Rice, I've heard that comparison out there. Obviously, not the off the field stuff, but like in terms of like on the field, a lot of people forget Ray Rice was. I mean, he was a very good running back. We're gonna be honest. Like, I mean, he was pivotal on that Super Bowl run.
Yes, he was. But yeah, he's definitely. Yeah, it's kind of a weird name to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. But these comparisons pretty apt.
Yes, he is. Very
so. Good. Now with the receivers, though, so I mean, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion now that AGG is going to make the team with his competition, Kelvin Harmon and Steven Sims, already being cut thus far. What are your projections for the receivers that will make the 53-man roster this year?
So I wrote a piece on Riggos Rag about a couple weeks ago where I discussed, who I thought would make, what wideouts I thought would make the team. And I think it's still going to be the same of Terry, Curtis, Diami, Adam Humphries, Cam Sims, and AGG. I'm honestly not really, high on AGG going forward. He's another guy who you can kind of tell, he's kind of gotten in his own way a little bit, but I believe that's kind of all you can do. He's kind of your best option there. I would like to see Dax get a try as well, but you can always, practice squad a guy like that. I would be a little worried about the Jets picking him up though.
Yeah, threw in the ball, right? Threw in the ball last year at BYU.
Yeah, Zach Wilson.
I mean,
yeah. That's what I was saying. I was like, I'd be worried about the Jets snagging him off the practice squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always like to throw Zach Wilson's name out there because, I feel like it's always going to stick with me for as long as we have this channel. But early on this channel, I think it was like September of last year, like after the first regular season game, college football, I was like, you know what, Zach Wilson's my QB2. I mean, everybody was like, no, Justin Fields.
Okay.
Bro, like, no, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was like the guy that I wanted here in DC. Obviously, we couldn't make it happen because we would have to trade up pretty much our next, 3 first-round picks for him. But no, I always like when you bring up Dax Mill. When anybody brings up Dax Mill, I'm like, Zach Wilson, bro. Like he's been slinging it.
Yeah. I'm a Trey Lance guy, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a Trey Lance guy. Big.
My twin guy out there, same birth date and everything.
Yeah, that dude. Yeah, don't even get me started about talking about Trey Lance, bro, because I've done a lot of podcasts about him. I've written about him. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, just give this kid some time and let him work.
I agree.
But yeah, I'm a Trey Lance guy, brother. That's cool though. Zach Wilson, I saw him destroy my college, Texas State, like 45-7, I think, or something like that. So
yeah. And people said he won't be ready because he played small school competition and everything. But guys, it translates, bro. Like,
listen,
sometimes
listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, Dax Milne, I think he's going to be a practice squad guy at this point, unless AGG just doesn't show up in this next game. I will say this, after the first preseason game, I was done with AGG. I really was. I mean, he dropped that 2-point conversion that would have tied up the game at the very end. Although he did make up for it last week. I believe he caught a 2-point conversion this time. Very, very nice catch. Had strong hands on display. But I think it's just going to be Terry, Curtis, Diami, Adam Humphries, Cam Sims, and AGG with Dax Milne on the practice squad. I think the real guy that is on the roster bubble right now altogether, whether it be practice squad or the 53-man roster, is DeAndre Carter, who I thought earlier in the offseason actually had a very good chance of making it. But with Jaret Patterson showcasing his abilities on the kick return team, I think DeAndre Carter right now might be expendable.
Yeah, and the thing with me, though, with AGG is going to be interesting to watch, is if he can't contribute on special teams, he may not make the 53. I mean, they might lean DeAndre Carter. I know, I'm not there at, practice every day, but from what we've read before, they do like DeAndre Carter. He has played with the twos, I believe, against the Patriots. He was in that second team lineup. So, I mean, he could make it if AGG can't really contribute on special teams, because your fifth and sixth wideouts are going to have to, contribute on special teams. They could lean DeAndre Carter. So I don't think I agree. He's definitely, he's on the bubble there, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did make the roster. I tweeted about that the other day, and I feel like, I don't feel, bad about that, opinion.
Yeah. Kind of wish we would have as well, Hawk, at least on the practice squad. I think he deserved a chance. 2019, the end of last season, he was one of our bright spots on that entire 3-13 team. And I don't know, man. I wish we got to see some things out of him this year, but obviously still hampered with that injury. Might not have been back fully ready, and that's kind of worrisome. But Tone here, hold on, bro. I mean, we love Jaret Patterson, but I mean, Adrian Peterson is on the Mount Rushmore of running backs all time, if not top 5, in my opinion. So I don't know about this take, but I mean, again, we love Jaret Patterson. We love what we see out of him. PG County kid playing for his hometown team. And if we're going to be fair, if we're going to be honest here, which we love to be, I mean, actually playing for his favorite team growing up, unlike Chase Young, who I believe was an Eagles fan, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people forget that. But no, it's it's all cool over here with Jared Patterson, but Adrian Peterson, man, we saw what age 34, age 35 season this man was still balling out, and a lot of people, even myself, were thinking that we should have kept him over Peyton Barber last year. But I mean, do you think this comparison is apt? We talked about comparisons earlier.
Respectfully disagree. Strongly disagree. Yeah, no, I don't think. Hey, if we have Baby AP on the roster, that would be with some stuff, man. But I don't see that. I don't see that.
I think having Baby MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew on the roster, I think is good enough for sure.
Or Dion Lewis 2.0. Yes,
exactly.
That works.
Especially when we already have what people think out there is the next CMC. So that would be very good. All young running backs too, except for maybe JD McKissick. But even then.
Hey, the fans, we got CMC 2.0, we got Adrian Peterson 2.0. What
Best
is JD
running back group of all time?
Yeah, what is JD McKissick? Barry Sanders 2.0. We got them all, man. Come, bring them all.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about this. Spot on, Swally here. Only comparison fair to JP, MJD, Darren Sproles, also Dion Lewis, who Damien brought up earlier. But I think all apt comparisons. But want to get to one of the things that was, or I guess the primary image that was on the thumbnail for this stream, and that is Terry McLaurin, likely pretty much 99.9% chance that he's not at this point going to make the NFL's top 100 ranking this year. I mean, he's not going to make it over guys like Cole or COVID Beasley, whatever you want to call him, and Corey Davis. KJ Wright made it at 67, and he's a free agent this year. And someone who, if you've seen my videos throughout the offseason, I've wanted here in DC because I think he should be a starter over John Bostic. But that's another story for another day.
I agree.
What are your thoughts on Terry McLaurin not making the NFL top 100? And, I did some digging, right? And obviously the NFL top 100 list is made by the players, and it's not even like a legit list because it's pretty much like a compilation of everybody's ranking and stuff. So it's a little weird in that aspect, but I did a little digging on other top 100 players list for other publications. I think I saw the CBS one, and we'll get to another topic from this specific publication a little bit later. But I saw that Terry McLaurin wasn't even on that list as well. So, I mean, I feel like he's widely underrated in the NFL. What are your thoughts on him just not making the NFL top 100?
Yeah, he's the most underrated wideout in the NFL. That's not close. It kind of reminds me of Keenan Allen, where like everyone when you talk about top 5 receivers, top 6, you're like Keenan Allen's like never talked about. Him or like Mike Evans, everyone like just forgets. But before Evans was playing with Tom Brady, everyone forgot about him. No one would even think about him.
Always injured too.
McLaurin's in that same boat. I wrote a piece about it, I believe about 3 or 4 months ago, where I kind of crunched numbers, and basically he was nearly 40% of Washington's passing offense last year, playing with one of the absolute worst quarterback situations, had an all-pro type of season. And somehow, some way, he's not a top 100 guy over Cole Beasley and Corey Davis. Like, those guys, his best seasons is an average is what Terry can do on an average. Like, it was ridiculous. It's nonsense that he doesn't make this list. A part of me really thinks like, how much do the players really like? How much of this list is theirs? Because every time we hear Terry McLaurin, when it talks about outside sources, whether it's like a Darius Slay or something like that, it's nothing but flowers for Terry McLaurin. So that's why I'm like, what is going on? I was shocked. I laughed. But man, I mean, Terry McLaurin, what a snub, man. What a snub. This terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I'm not going to lie, I pretty much watch the episodes every single year. It's fitting, though, that this is the year that I haven't watched, like, any one of the episodes. I've just been watching literally all the highlight videos on YouTube and stuff that the NFL posts. Yeah. It's funny how this year, the year that I don't watch, is the year that they make the most egregious mistake when it comes to our team and selecting a player on the top 100 list, or not selecting a player that is on our team. And Terry McLaurin, man, I agree with you. Most underrated receiver in the league. It's not even close. I mean, I can't wrap my head around the fact that they really ranked Corey Davis and Cole Beasley above Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is a legit number 1 receiver in this league. Like, I think he's shown that over the last 2 seasons. Corey Davis, I mean, he might be playing wide receiver 1 out there in New York, but if we're going to be honest, he is pretty much a high-end wide receiver 2. And Cole Beasley's a slot receiver. He might be the best slot receiver in the league. Maybe, he's up there, right? But he's a slot receiver at the end of the day. Like, what are we doing? I mean, you talked about the flowers that Terry McLaurin was getting from guys like Darius Slay. I mean, he was cooking Stephon Gilmore 2 seasons ago in his rookie year.
Yeah.
I know last year, personally, I think if he stayed healthy in his first year, I believe he could have even had a better season his first year than last year. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I mean, Terry McLaurin was still, I mean, not Pro Bowl because the NFC is just stacked at like Pro Bowl receivers last year, but like he was up there, man. 1,100 yards. I know his receiving touchdown total was low at 4 touchdowns, but that's the quarterback play. I mean, what are the receivers going to put up his stats with the 4 quarterbacks that he had last year and then the 4 quarterbacks that he had the year before, right? Like it's just quarterback carousel.
He's a top 10 wide receiver. No question. I mean, there's very few wide receivers, and you could say like, oh, I'm being a homer, but just from someone who watches a lot of football, right? A lot of tape. Yeah. Terry McLaurin is so good, and I'm telling you, if you gave him a solid, a sound quarterback situation, he would get more recognition. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to watch it. It kind of reminds me of a DeAndre Hopkins situation before he got Deshaun Watson, where, Hopkins was always like that guy. I was like, man, Hopkins is really good. If he gets a quarterback, Hopkins is really good.
I will say this. The Hopkins is the only guy who I think, like, I feel like that comparison might not be the best because Hopkins was balling out like even more than Terry with some of the bad quarterbacks that he had before. Obviously, he hooked up with Deshaun Watson and now Kyler Murray. So I feel like, that's another level, but I agree.
Man, I'm not going to lie to you, brother. I really think Terry McLaurin has that kind of upside, bro. I really do. I think Terry could be a truly elite wideout in this league. I mean, from as long, like I'm saying, just give him some good quarterback play. I promise you. Like, all 3-level pass catcher, excellent blocker, excellent route runner, can take a 5-yard, 50 yards. Like, he can make it happen. So I just want him to see. I just want to see good quarterback play with him, and let that do the talking.
Maybe not even like, and a lot of people out there say that like one good quarterback player here in DC, so Terry can show up. But even just a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Like an average starter, but someone who always feeds his number 1 targets wherever he goes, whether it be Brandon Marshall in New York, whether it be
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Exactly, or Devontae Parker in Miami as recently as last year. Always feeds his number 1 target. So I think Terry McLaurin is going to ask you this as a follow-up, but I think he's going to have potentially 1350 yard season, 7 receiving touchdowns, and prediction, bold take out here. I think he's going to make the Pro Bowl in the stacked NFC over Justin Jefferson this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a Pro Bowl year. I think it's going to be a fringe All-Pro year. I think he's going to put up the 1,300 yards. I think he might have double-digit touchdowns. I think it's possible. I understand he only had, 4 last year? Right?
Yeah,
4 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Give him, and that's what the worst quarterback situation in the league. Please give, if Fitzpatrick's an average quarterback, I think it's destined. It's going to happen. But I think, like I said, it could be like, oh, you're being a homer, blah, blah, blah. But, man, when you just watch it, you know it. You see it. And that's what I'm saying. Is give him more opportunity. Give him, correct opportunities, and he'll make the most out of them. He's already done it now with, bad QB play. Just imagine with just league average quarterback play, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and from what we've heard out of camp and the offseason, Terry McLaurin has improved his route running, working out with guys like Doug Baldwin in the offseason. So, the sky's the limit for him. I agree with you. I think he's going to be an elite receiver in this league for years to come, and Washington should definitely lock him up for a long-term extension very shortly. But, I think this is a fun question to ask, off the fact that numbers 10 through 1 will be revealed on Sunday evening on NFL Network, NFL Top 100 list. This might be putting you on the spot, but who are your top 10 players in the NFL right now?
Ooh, let's think. Mahomes, Roger. This is not order. This is not an order, but this is just 10 because I don't think I could do an order off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But Mahomes, Rodgers, Wilson, Brady, Aaron Donald. Oh goodness gracious! Great balls of fire. Let's think about this. So those are 5.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins probably. Trying to think of some edge rushers that I really like. I really like Myles Garrett. TJ Watt could be in that mix as well. I need a running back in there. I need a running back.
What about King Henry?
Yeah.
Or CMC?
Well, I do like Derrick Henry, but I think I would lean Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
On that list. Let me think. Dude, this is a tough question.
Yeah.
Man, this is probably really high, man, but I still think probably best left tackle in football is Trent Williams, man. And I think that matters a lot.
Thank you for giving this man his flowers, bro. Because a lot of people out here think this guy has been replaced with Charles Leno from Chicago. I mean, I agree with you. This guy is a Hall of Fame talent. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think Trent Williams, and I agree. He's a Hall of Fame level talent. But I think guys like that, you know, I don't know how many I gave you there. Yeah. But it would be somewhere around that ballpark with, you know, players of that caliber. The first four are easy because it's just you know it's the best quarterbacks, you know, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, you know, stuff like that. And I'm a big Lamar Jackson guy, so maybe I would throw him in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I'm in the same boat as well. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan here as well. I mean, it helps to be a Lamar Jackson fan in the DMV, but I agree. Swaley's take here. So I'm going to give you like my top 10-ish. I don't know why I completely forgot about DeAndre Hopkins. So I got to add him in here. But so DeAndre Hopkins, definitely, I think, top 10 player. But my list, so I actually have Aaron Donald still as the number one player over Patrick Mahomes. That might be a hot take, but I think Mahomes didn't have the best of years last year. Although he's, of course, the best quarterback still in the league, I think Aaron Donald is the best player, period. When you consider everything, he is the cog that has that Rams defense, that had that Ram defense go number one last year. So Aaron Donald, number one, Mahomes, number two, Rodgers, number three, Brady, number four, and CMC. So this is where the rankings I didn't really consider the numbers. I just put players out here. CMC, I agree. Derrick Henry, I would even put top 10-ish. Josh Allen, who I think had a spectacular season last year. Josh Allen is the NFL version of Zach Wilson for me last year when it came to like how much I hyped him up going into the season and stuff. So a huge fan of Josh Allen. And I also had Stephon Diggs, considered him being a top 10 player as well, not just because he's from Maryland, but also because he's a Terp, but also because he formed a very good connection, was the leading receiver in the entire league last year. So Travis Kelce, that's the guy that I want to mention. Swale mentions it here. Best tight end in the league, 1,400 receiving yards, I believe, as a tight end, which is absolutely insane. I don't care who's throwing you the ball. That's actually crazy. And yeah, TJ Watt, I know you mentioned him along the likes of Myles Garrett and Devontae Adams. Got to give him some love as well. But yeah, all those players are legit bona fide top 10, top 12 players in this league.
And we forgot guys like Jalen Ramsey. Completely forgot about Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, shutting down receivers.
Best corner in the league, Jalen Ramsey. Or even some people think he might be on the slide, but I still would like me a lot of Stephon Gilmore. That's for sure. Yeah. I would not be talking about his downfall or anything like that at all. I think he's ultra talented.
Yeah, I mean, people forget he was Defensive Player of the Year just 2 seasons back, right? So I mean, as a corner, so that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, the NFL now is so talented, man.
I mean,
you have so many guys. I mean, it's dumb that McLaurin was left off the list. But look at that list. Look how many great wideouts are on that list outside of, Beasley and Corey Davis, guys like Keenan Allen and your Mike Evans and all these other guys who are just so good, so talented, Justin Jefferson, guys like that. I mean, this league it's getting really, really good, really ultra talented, kind of, the best football we've seen in my lifetime, at least for sure, from a talent perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I agree there. Very quickly here before we get into the matchup for Saturday evening, I do want to get into something that we talked about off camera, but very, very, very quickly, our takes here. Dwayne Haskins, I'm pulling up the quote right now on Twitter. I want to read it word for word at a press conference today, basically talking up for Mike Tomlin and his abilities as a coach, while also simultaneously talking down Coach Rivera here in DC and really Jay Gruden as well. I think this was his quote. from press conference today. I think that Coach Tomlin does a great job as far as giving you a scouting report of who you're playing that week. I've never really had that before. What are your thoughts on that comment right there and Dwayne Haskins not helping himself whatsoever when it comes to the media over the last couple of years?
What the heck, right? I'm trying not to curse, but what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. I literally put on Twitter right before we started this. I was like, so Jay Gruden and Kevin O'Connell, Ron and Scott Turner, they don't give their quarterback scouting reports. Is that what you're telling me? Like, oh, and let's say hypothetically that's true.
He just didn't read them. That was his thing.
Well, no, let's just say hypothetically that he didn't get a scouting report, right? Why are you not preparing for these teams? Why is it on them to give you the scouting report? Not only that, too, you have a quarterbacks coach, you have an offensive coordinator. Like, there's resources here. Like, I don't think they're going to be like. I don't think Scott Turner or Ron Rivera are telling Dwayne, back when he was in Washington, like, nope, you need to figure this out all on your own. You're starting quarterback. This doesn't seem likely. No. It's ridiculous. It's like I said, I was just like, it's just dumb. It's dumb. It's a dumb thing to say. You know what you're saying. You know what I mean? It's just, and you know it's going to make headlines, man. You know it is. When you say that one coach is better than your others, like, of course it's going to make headlines, man. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
You can say whatever you want about Jay Gruden. I think that what he said about Jay Gruden, if he was just talking about Gruden specifically, pretty apt. But come on, Ron Rivera gave you every freaking chance to succeed here in DC. I don't want to hear any excuses, right? Like, Ron Rivera is known as a guy that's very, very, very friendly to his quarterbacks and helps them, especially if they're a young quarterback, helps them in whatever shape or form. Try to help Dwayne Haskins as much as possible. He even tells people today that he regrets not having a legit quarterback competition last year because, I mean, he felt like, Dwayne Haskins was the guy, but he saw what happened in the regular season and was like, oh, shoot, maybe if I had a quarterback competition, we wouldn't have started off slow the way we did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he gave Dwayne Haskins every shot possible. And all the people out there, it's mostly not really local people, but like national people are out there saying, oh, now Dwayne Haskins has legit coaching that cares about him now. And just shut it, man. Like, you guys don't know. Like, Ron Rivera, like, he gave him every shot possible. Ron Rivera coached Cam Newton, right? Like, a lot of people forget coming into the league, right? Cam Newton had that reputation in college. Even dating back to like the JUCO scene where maybe, he wasn't the most coachable, but like Ron Rivera stuck with him, got to a Super Bowl bid with him, and MVP season Cam Newton had with Ron Rivera as the coach of the year as well. Yeah. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, man, it feels like every single day, every passing day, I just like lose more respect for him. And I, again, hate to say that because he is from like Maryland, right? Like he's from the DMV, and I always root for my DMV guys, but like, Haskins, please. I mean,
and it doesn't make sense because it did look like when he did play, he was unprepared. So like, I mean, you can kind of pass blame on that, be like, oh, well, I never had a scouting report. That's why I failed in Washington or this, that, and the third. But it's like, dude, you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You know what I mean? So I don't understand, man. That's just nonsense.
I think we should move off from this negative news that I don't know, Dwayne Haskins seems to present here in DC and move on to like the matchup, right? The preseason matchup. It's so funny. I always save too little time at the very end to talk about the matchup for the upcoming preseason game, but this one is special. I know all the people out there are like, Baltimore's not in the DMV. Like, why do you keep owning them and stuff? Why do you keep talking about the Ravens? But I mean, whatever you want to say, battle the beltways, okay? I mean, I personally think it's the battle of the DMV, and I think it would be a great Super Bowl matchup. I think the DMV would be absolutely excited. But battle of the beltways, Washington football team versus Baltimore Ravens. First question I'm going to ask you: how long do you think the starters want to play this upcoming game, if at all?
I would say a quarter.
Yeah.
1 quarter. I would say 1 quarter because you don't want to play these guys a whole half. I don't think. You have plenty of time to rest as well. Which could kind of work against my prediction here, because if they do have those 2.5 weeks, maybe Ron does say, hey, you can play a half because you're not playing competitive football like this, even though it's very a limited setting. You're not playing competitive football like this for another 2 weeks. So it could be a half, but I think a quarter is more likely. I think he's going to take a lot of time to watch guys like Heineke and Kyle Allen, though, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Competing for that quarterback 2 spot right now. But no, I agree. I said a quarter as well. It's so weird though with this whole 3-game preseason situation. It differs really across the league. Obviously, you always have those teams that don't play their starters whatsoever during the preseason. But this year, you have teams that are like in the third preseason game, they're going to have their starters play for half. You have teams that say they're only going to play for a drive. You have teams that say they're not going to play their starters at all. So it's just a very weird situation this year. But I agree with you. Maybe a quarter max for us. But the next question I'm going to ask you, and this is kind of cool. Baltimore right now, 19 straight preseason wins. Do you believe Washington will prevent Baltimore from securing a record-breaking, right? They already had record time, record-breaking 20th straight preseason W?
It's so hard because this is the preseason, right? Because hypothetically, you're just like, well, let's see. I could see Washington pass rush doing this, but it's like, no, there ain't no Washington pass rush here. This is like guys who likely aren't making the team. So I'm gonna bet with the Ravens and say that, hey, Washington probably doesn't win, right? But I think that what does go in Washington's favor is they're starting guys after Fitzpatrick like Heineke, who hasn't played a lot, but he looks fine in preseason, and Kyle Allen, who has played some football in this league. So maybe Washington can put something together and beat the Ravens. But I mean, they've won 19 straight games, man. And they're starting like Trace McSorley and like RG3 in preseason and in recent years. So that's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? So
Ashburn zone, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's the preseason. You really don't know what to expect. You can't really make a prediction. Although I will say this, Coach Rivera, I don't know if you saw this in a press conference this week when he was told about how the Ravens had recorded 19 straight W's and how they're on the verge of getting their 20th straight W if they win this week. Basically, when he was told that, he said very interesting in that Russell Westbrook type of way. I don't know if you remember that GIF. Very interesting. So I think Coach Rivera, I think he's going to pull out the W this week. I think obviously it doesn't really matter, but like, I don't know. I just feel like he's going to have his I feel like he's going to have his guys ready as I don't even think you call it the dress rehearsal. Again, it's just a very weird situation this year with the 3 preseason games. But I think he's going to have his guys ready, and I think we're going to prevent the Ravens from breaking the record. But I think so. Other than Patterson, who I think we're also going to see a show out of this week, who else are you most excited to watch on Washington? And maybe even Baltimore, if you have a guy or two that you're interested on that team of watching.
I'll go with Washington. I really want to see the offensive line, more so guys like Eric Flowers, even potentially a Wes Martin, a Wes Schweitzer, guys like that. That's who I really want to look out and watch, because I still think this offensive line, we kind of have a base understanding of who's going to start. Your Rouliers, your Sheriffs, and your Cosmes are going to start. But I still think that left side, there could be some work to be done there. There's some work to be had there. Maybe there's, a little bit of moving pieces, moving parts there. I'm definitely interested in that. And of course, I don't want to take too many, of our choices here, but I would not mind seeing how this wide receiver room shapes up in this last game. I want to see AGG, DeAndre Carter, Dax Milne, all those guys battle it out for this last spot. That's what I'm going to be watching. That's what I'm going to be looking for.
Yep. I agree. HG, I mean, he was terrible week 1, okay week 2. Hopefully he continues improving and shows something, I don't know, that makes him worthy of a roster spot. Benjamin St. Juice, looking forward to seeing more out of him. Torrey McTire as well. And then, of course, Deami Brown, you got to throw his name out there. For the Ravens, I know we talked about this off camera, but Shaun Wade was a guy who I was looking forward to watching, because even though he made a very, very, very bad mistake of not leaving college, and I usually don't like to say this, but not leaving college for the draft early, because last year in college at Ohio State was very much a down year for him. He fell from like a first-round projected pick to a fifth-round pick that he was in 2021. I was looking forward to seeing something out of him, because apparently he's been locked down like corner in the league thus far in preseason. I know it's preseason, but I mean, I said something out of a fifth-round rookie, but apparently he's getting traded to the Patriots, so we won't have to see him this week. But I'm looking forward to also seeing backup quarterback and Briarwood's high school alum out there in Ashburn, Virginia, Trace McSorley, slinging it a little bit. Maybe not too much because we're trying to get the W, but slinging it a little bit and seeing what we have out of him. Usually this would be a point where like we would see a lot of RG3 because he was the Ravens backup the last couple of years, but he is not on the roster. He's not even in the NFL. He's going to be an ESPN analyst this upcoming season. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts there. I do want to ask you this second to last question before getting into the last one, which I ask every single guest, but because I know you have a lot of NBA expertise. And San Antonio Spurs is the team that you're most familiar with, especially. What do you think the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm going to throw this team out there because DMV, Washington Wizards seasons will look like this upcoming season, and who do you think will actually make the championship and win it all this year?
So I'll start with the Wizards. I think the Wizards are going to be interesting. So I loved Denny Avdia coming out of the draft back in 2020. I had him in my second tier of prospects. I loved him. He can play make like crazy. I think a lot of people sleep on that. If he can kind of shoot off the ball like how he did back in Israel, I think a lot can go right for him. Especially playing the 3. He can even play the 4 a little bit. And honestly, if you wanted to run him as a big 1 so he can kind of be your primary facilitator, I would love to see Denny Avdia in that role. I love the Spencer Dinwiddie pickup. Like me and my friends say, he's just like that. It's just nothing more, nothing less. He's just a bucket. And I still think there's some underrated playmaking aspects that he brings as well. I think Washington will probably have the better record because you have a superstar on your team, and San Antonio does not. But I'm excited to see this new coach with new talent. I want to see Corey Kispert as well. I feel like Kispert is kind of like a typical Wizards pick. Not really much upside there, but he can contribute immediately in a way that actually matters. I want to see what y'all going to do with Bertans as well, because Bertans was a Spur. I saw him a lot, in San Antonio. He was a great shooter, but the defense
bounces back.
Yeah, the defense always worried me, and in the playoffs, he couldn't really carve out a role for himself. So I think Washington's definitely a great story this year to kind of keep an eye on. In terms of San Antonio, so I wrote a piece that'll be dropping here, probably tomorrow, basically kind of tackling the idea of, hey, is San Antonio going to be a bottom 5 team like all these odds makers are saying? I'm not gonna say my answer yet, but everyone will read that. But I will say I don't think this team will be as bad as some believe. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, so I'll spoil that. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll make the play-in either. But I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff to watch when it comes to this team. Like, for example, guys like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, who are going to be, in their next years of development. I love what Devin Vassell can do. I believe there's some shot creating upside there. I think his floor is a guy like Michael Bridges, a low end or a high end 3-and-D player, low usage. But I think both teams have interesting stories. They're kind of at different places. Washington's trying to build around a superstar. San Antonio's still trying to find theirs. So I like both of those teams this year, just to watch and see what goes on. And then you said the championship, correct? Like who's going to win the title?
Yep.
Whew. Okay, I think it's gonna be the Lakers, man. I
thought I was ready for you to say the Nets, so I'm glad that we're agreeing here. But go ahead.
I think it's gonna be the Lakers. I think it'll be the Lakers because LeBron knows that he needs another creator, and that's what killed them in the playoffs. I still think if they had a guy like Kyle Lowry on that roster, even though AD got hurt, they could have potentially beat the Suns. I mean, they were going to beat the Suns when AD was healthy, and the Lakers had 0 shot creators outside of LeBron. Zero who could make anything more than a second level read out of the pick and roll. All their creators could do was make a pass to the rolling big man out of the pick and roll. That's it. And there was nothing else from an isolation perspective, nothing. And they got one of the the best facilitators, creators in the league. Although he can't shoot, he can create for everybody. So I think the Westbrook fit's going to be interesting to see. I think they're definitely going to win a lot of games because there's going to be nights where LeBron and AD rest and Russ goes for 40, 20, and 20. You know what I mean? So it's going to be awesome to see, man. But I think it's going to be Lakers, man. Lakers show.
Yeah, I agree there. I think it's going to be Lakers versus Nets in the championship game, in the championship series. And then I think the Lakers are going to pull it out. I just think, a lot of this talk about the LeBron James, Russell Westbrook fit and how that's not going to work and everything. I think that's all overblown. I think people forget the LeBron James, and you might think otherwise, and that's totally fair. I get it. I still think he's the best player in the world, and I think he's going to have the type of season that he had in 2019. I don't know if people remember, but after the 2018-2019 season, there's a lot of talk on how LeBron was washed. He just came off a season-ending injury, was getting old. Everybody was like, this is it. This is it. KD has taken over the throne. And what did we see last year? We saw LeBron James take over towards the stretch and ultimately secure his 4th championship. I think he's going to secure his number 5 championship. And Russell Westbrook, I think he's going to have a great season this year. I mean, a lot of people forget he was playing at an MVP level. I know Ed Albert out there who makes great Wizards content in our community would agree with me on this, but he was playing at an MVP level towards the second half of last season, and that's usually Russell Westbrook the last couple of years, right? First half of the season starts off slow, and it wouldn't be surprising if the Lakers do as well. Yep. But as the season goes along, Russell Westbrook, gets better and sort of finds his way on the team and really becomes the stud that we know Russell Westbrook to be. So I think the Lakers will win the championship this year. And with regards to the Wizards and the Spurs, I think they're going to pretty much end up where they ended up last year, both in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. I think the Wizards are a fringe playoff team still. I think they downgraded with going from Russell Westbrook to Spencer Dinwiddie, but I also think that they have a more solid roster right now. They have great depth. So I think you take what you can get, I guess, with the Washington Wizards at this point in their offseason thus far. Spurs, agree with you. They don't have a superstar there, but I think they also have some pretty good depth. Keldon Johnson has some Olympic experience under his belt, so we'll see if that benefits him in any way. But I think, again, both like fringe playoff teams, if not right outside the playoff picture. But yeah, I'll say that. With these takes in the comments, the Lakers are dead. They were dead before they picked up Russell Westbrook. Who is your Washington football team starting quarterback? I think Fitzpatrick. Yeah. I think it's foregone conclusion. Yeah, at this point, for all those Taylor Heineke lovers out there. No, he didn't go to college. I don't know if you know that. 3-time Super Bowl champ skids. He didn't go to college. But I'll leave it at that. Last question, Damien. This has been a very fun stream, bro. I appreciate you once again for joining. We talked a lot about the Washington football team. Yep. The NBA, Washington Wizards, Lakers, Spurs, so on and so forth. Last and final question. Love to ask this to everybody, every single week that I have on here. What are your thoughts on the future of this Washington football franchise? And do you think that Coach Rivera is building a winner to the point where this team might win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years?
That the last part will be determined on whether they can find a franchise quarterback. You need one to win the Super Bowl in this era of football, in my opinion. I know there's been times where guys like a Joe Flacco, won the Super Bowl and stuff like that, and a heavily watered down Peyton Manning. But I think those days are kind of over. I mean, you could potentially get to the Super Bowl. We've seen Jimmy G do it, but Jimmy G was playing at a very high level that year as well, really managing the game and making correct throws at all 3 levels when asked. So. I think that second part will be determined basically about that on the franchise quarterback part.
Except for that one game where I think he had like 8 pass attempts, but I think that shows you,
didn't they like blow the Packers out that game by like 42-0?
I think it was insane, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just managing the game, filling your role. I think that's what you could win games like that for sure, but you want to win a Super Bowl. So I think that'll kind of be determined on that. In terms of building a winner, yes, I do believe that's where we're headed now. Considering they won 7 games with the worst quarterback situation in the league last year, they have an improving defense. The only thing that's going to get in their way is the salary cap, and I hope they just manage their money correctly, sign the guys that they need to. McLaurin is, obviously one of them. Chase Young is going to reset the market with his deal. Even a guy like Montez Sweat is going to be, paid a lot of money. But I think the only way Washington will basically fail in this Ron Rivera era is if they get in their own way. That's going to be it. And whether that's from the quarterback, playing below average, or whether that's them not signing the right guys or allocating their assets in ways that don't benefit this team long term. The only way that they don't succeed in this era is if they, basically shoot themselves in the foot.
I agree, man. I think I might have a video about this coming out. I don't know, next couple of weeks, we'll see. But I think Washington is definitely building a contender, man. I think they have all the pieces out there. Obviously, I think it's going to take maybe one more draft, one more offseason, obviously a quarterback for us to get to that point. But I'm on the Aaron Rodgers to DC train. I think he's out of Green Bay after this year, and I think Washington should definitely look into training for him. And I think if we have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or even if we trade up next year, because I think if we show signs of being a very good team this year outside the quarterback position, I think Washington has a very good chance of trading up, much like the 49ers did this year, and potentially getting into that top 5 range and getting Sam Howell, who I think is going to be special in this league, or someone else that we just don't know, which was the case with Zach Wilson. I think they might do that as well. Yeah, I think they're going to get their quarterback. I think they're going to get their quarterback whichever way it comes next offseason. I think that's going to set the stage for them being a legit Super Bowl contender.
I agree. And if it's Rodgers, get ready, because they're making a run. Get ready. That's all I can say. Yeah.
I know it's going to take a lot, but guys, 38 years old, I could care less. He's an MVP, right? Like, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. He was an MVP this past year. He's arguably, the most talented quarterback in the league, probably behind Mahomes at this point. But yeah, man, here, Aaron Rodgers in DC, like, I can't tell you. I always tell my the people out there watching this, but early in the offseason, when all that talk around Aaron Rodgers and being traded was running rampant, I told my dad that, there's a possibility that Aaron Rodgers might be in DC. I've never seen this guy, his face light up as much, right? When I'm talking about the Wasp football team, and I don't know how many years when I said the possibility of Aaron Rodgers being here in DC, because even him being out the know, right, with this team for a while, even he knows how special Aaron Rodgers is. So hopefully we could bring him here.
Yeah, if they got Aaron, man, that's all I can say.
That's all I can say, man. Yeah,
for sure.
So we didn't talk about Brandon Sheriff, but I guess, like, last quick thing before we head out, Brandon Sheriff, number 98, NFL top 100. I wanted to bring him up because Corey earlier, we were talking about, like, I don't know what brought us to this point, but I pretty much said that Brandon Sheriff was like the Josh Allen of, like, guards, in the sense that, like, he's top 4, top 3-ish of guards, right, at his position. And then Corey, being the hater that he is, clapped back and said that he is the Jared Goff of guards. What are your thoughts on Brandon Sheriff's reputation in the league and here in DC? And do you think we're going to miss him when he's gone?
No. That was a quick answer. I was like, no. I would say you're going to miss him in spurts in some aspects, yes, because he's a consistent player. When he's on the field, he's consistently playing at a high level. That I will say. But you're gonna reap the rewards of saving money on your salary cap for guys who impact the game more than a right guard does. Example, you have 2 edge rushers that you need to pay and a wide receiver 1 that you need to pay. Those guys, in my opinion, are more valuable than a right guard. I believe interior linemen are a little easier to find than some people like to say and agree on. Just like this year, a guy, I believe it was I forgot if his name was Troy Smith out of Tennessee. I believe that's who it was. Was it Troy Smith, or I forgot his name, but I know he had medical issues. I thought he was a 2nd-round prospect out of Tennessee, and he's looked great. Everyone's been talking about him, discussing him. So I think guys like that, interior linemen, offensive linemen, are much easier to find, and I feel like you can replace him at a much cheaper rate with, if not, that elite, Pro Bowl, level play. Maybe a tier below, but that's still good enough to win football games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with this take here by
Swallow. Missing spirit, but not in cap
space. I definitely agree with you there, especially with all the guys that we have to pay on that defense. But man, it's gonna suck. It's really going to suck having 2 All-Pro players, man. I know Trent Williams never was officially an All-Pro player, but come on, guys. He was top 2, top 3 left tackle for most of his career here in DC.
Yeah.
Having 2 of those guys go, and, like, within the span of 2 think 3 off seasons by that point.
Yeah.
Like I get it,
That's brutal.
we have the depth, but I mean that's when you're building a young team, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah. The Trent Williams stuff was more so the front office's fault, so that's what makes it a little bit tougher to swallow because
fifth round pick and third round pick.
Yeah.
Trent,
yeah. No,
you're paying him.
Hey, Bruce Allen gave us a nice goodbye with that one. He gave us a nice by holding out, ruining everything, and then Ron has to clean up this mess with. He has to clean up a flood with basically a broom and a dustpan. It was just horrible, man. Horrible stuff. Yeah. But shout out to Bruce Allen, man. Thank the Lord you're not here no more.
Yeah, thank Trent Williams because of that situation, Bruce Allen is no longer here. Yep. So always grateful for that. Yeah, for sure. But with that being said, again, Damien, thank you so much for joining, bro. This was a really fun string. We talked a lot about, once again, the Washington football team, NBA, Brandon Sheriff, all these guys, to Terry McLaurin not being on the top 100 list. If you guys missed anything, make sure to play us back, because I think we have actually more viewers now than we had for the first couple of minutes. But if you miss anything, play us back. Damien, anything you want to plug before we head on out?
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, brother. Thank you for having me. Anytime you want to talk ball, bro, just let me know and I'll make time for it. Y'all can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at @DA_Bartonek. That's at DABARTONEK. My pinned tweet, you can check out all my articles about the Spurs, about the Washington football team, about Texas State sports, my podcast. Just check me out and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, for sure. And to make it easier, guys, as always, make sure to link your link tree on the description here on the YouTube video. So make sure you go check out Damien's content. Very great content creator out here. And again, I mean, we're the same age. This guy's verified, bro. That tells you all you need to know about the content that he's putting out there. So go out there and support him, aspiring broadcaster that he is. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the DMVSportsZone channel, where we try to post fire content on here as much as possible. Also, go follow our Twitter page and Instagram page, all lowercase DMVSportsZone. Post great content on there as well. I remember we had Remember the Titans sort of dialogue a couple days ago. So always lively out there. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned. We have a former Washington football team player that's going to be on the channel in no time. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. But have a great rest of your evening and a great Saturday evening of preseason week number 3. Peace out.